back to the mansion. Hopefully I'll manage to be finished with it in this clip so we can move on to whatever we need to do next. Looks like I don't have enough keys for all the doors in here, so guess we'll just have to hope we're lucky. And this is the second time we've entered a room and seen nothing inside of it, despite the fact that we used a key. Again, that's a bit annoying. I suppose not enough people complained about dead ends for the sake of giving the players some dead ends in Final Fantasy II. Probably because there were more than enough other things in Final Fantasy II that turned off the audience. Anyway, I somehow doubt there's anything hidden in this small room. Not when we needed a key to get inside of it in the first place. Will the third room have anything for us? Okay, so we've got a hidden path here. I suppose that's promising. Just have to take out these golden warriors who seem to feel like they emphasize the colors green and blue more than gold on their outfits. I mean, sure, the golden skin tone is certainly an interesting one, but it doesn't really feel like the dominant color on that particular enemy. Or at least it's not the most eye-catching color on them. Okay, so we've got a staircase. And this hallway, while not exactly a maze, is giving me the impression we're going to be coming up to something important. Now, maybe that's just kind of wishful thinking on my part, considering... I mean, for God's sake, this really should have been just another random room where we grab some items. What's going on here? As a side note, it feels like this dungeon is doing a much better job of theming things around here than any other dungeon in the game so far. There's gold absolutely everywhere. It's in the walls, it's in the floor, it's in the enemies. I'm pretty sure the only non-gold thing that's going to be in this building is going to be the crystal. Wait, what? I wasn't expecting this to lead us to the boss. And good God, that crystal is certainly very close to being gold, that's for sure. Anyway, of course the guy who is absolutely obsessed with gold is wearing golden armor and it's called Goldor. I wish I could say I'm gonna remember that, but I'm pretty sure I'm gonna forget about this guy and this building in a hurry once we're done with this clip. Oh, son of a bitch, this guy hits hard. Am I under-leveled here? And Brett's punches did more damage than Azul's most powerful offensive spell. That's disconcerting. Well, at least his next attack didn't hit Brett. That would have been pretty annoying. Son of a bitch. Looks like magic just plain doesn't have much of an effect on this guy, period. I'm trying to remember if we were already told that, but still. It's not like Azul's physical attacks are going to be worth a damn, so he is essentially useless either way. Whew. That shot did more damage than anyone has in their full health. Definitely not great to see. Still, not every hit of Goldor's is absurdly strong. At the very least, it's going to be an expensive fight in terms of healing items. Oh, bloody hell, that was close to a one-hit kill on the guy with the most armor and the most health. What the hell more could we have done to prepare for this fight? Seriously. Oh dear. The blood sword isn't gonna do all that much to help Carmine stay on his feet for this fight. Well, the joke's on Goldor. Azul isn't all that effective against him anyway. Making him potentially strike at us isn't gonna be anywhere near as scary as Goldor actually hitting us personally. Well, hopefully this little idea won't come back to bite me. Not really the greatest plan for our dedicated healer, though. Well, I suppose it's a good thing that Midoriya's not been hitting all that hard, considering we needed to hit Azul to break that confusion there. Ugh. Azul's attacks are just absolutely pathetic here now that he can't use his strongest spells. And, well, I'm hoping that Goldor runs out of health before we do. That's all I can really say now. I guess Azul is gonna have to be our healer for the moment, since he's gonna be hitting weaker than anyone else. I certainly doubt his arrows are gonna be all that effective, especially since it's been quite a while since there have been any arrows he's been allowed to equip on his bow. Or since he's been able to upgrade his bow. And I also doubt that he'd be all that much more physically capable if he used staffs to bash Goldor over the head with. And that does it. We're done with Goldor. That was certainly a troublesome boss, though thankfully not too much for us to handle our first time walking up to him. Here's hoping we continue to smoothly keep pushing forward through this game. Wait, what? Okay, he was certainly a spiteful bastard. I suppose he's gonna be more memorable than I was expecting after pulling that as his dying act. Still doubt I'm gonna remember his name after this clip. I certainly forgot the name of the guy who managed to trick us to let him steal the 2 ice tusks and start drawing energy from the fire crystal, even if his actions certainly will stick out in my mind for a while. Well, in that case, we can use our ship to do some things we probably should have done earlier on. There's plenty of chests and other items that we didn't actually grab so far, after all. We've also got some shopping to do to replenish the supplies we couldn't replenish outside of the floating continent for some reason. Granted, that doesn't solve the question of where do we go next for the sake of the plot, but it's not like the plot has any kind of urgency around here. Yeah, really annoying that even random encounters can really rip through our health at this point. How much of that is the game's fault for not giving us any warning and not letting us repair as much as we probably should? And how much of that is my fault for sticking with a black mage and a red mage this far in? Okay. Bit more of a pain to retreat there than I was expecting, and I always feel like a bit of an ass whenever I retreat from a fight in these kinds of games. Well, we definitely need another key to get that door open. I don't suppose there was any way to get more keys in case you didn't prepare enough to have enough keys to go through the dungeon, is there? Because if you're unprepared, you could potentially screw yourself over and just lock yourself out of being able to make any more progress. Now that has to be one of the worst game design decisions we've seen so far in this game. Now, I get the fact that older games sometimes were so ridiculous that you absolutely needed a guide to figure out what to do next. And it's not like this series had all that much inspiration to draw on in the genre that would have been all that applicable when this particular game was made. Sure, there were games like Shin Megami Tensei and The Legend of Heroes, even way back then. It's not like Final Fantasy was the only RPG out there, but I can't really say how well they compared to the likes of Final Fantasy III at this point. They were never officially released in the United States, and Meanwhile, there is a fan-made translation of Legend of Heroes Dragon Slayer out there, along with fan translations of Shin Megami Tensei 1 and 2. I have more than enough games on my to-do list at this point that I don't see too much reason to go out of my way to get those running on my computer at this time. And, of course, part of me can't help hoping that one of these days those games will get some measure of re-release for modern hardware, with some good user interface improvements and damn good translation work. Hell, the fact that the Pixel Remaster finally officially allowed people to play through Final Fantasy 2, 3, and 5 when they were unreleased outside of Japan says there's a market out there for much older games. And considering the fact that a lot of companies these days are really into the whole remake and remaster idea, it's not outside the realm of possibility for those games to end up re-released for international consumption at some point. But anyway, my point was that JRPG genre, it didn't really feel like it really took off until the PlayStation 1 era of consoles. There were over 400 games in this subgenre made in that console generation. It was essentially a gold rush. And while there were some absolutely amazing games being made in this genre before then, many worthy of respect, they were generally far too different in many ways to really do all that much cross-pollination. But when the PlayStation 1 arrived, things started to get more standardized, which made it easier for this and that game to more directly take ideas from others in the genre. It's one thing for Pokemon to occasionally have hidden paths like Final Fantasy 3, 4, and 5. It's something else entirely for Wild Arms to have a narrative RPG with a party system that does a good amount of character work in the same veins as Final Fantasy 6 and 7. For some reason, I was hoping that at least this guy would have something to say about Deshot dying earlier. Ah, well, more important that there are chests in here that we didn't think to grab last time we were in these caves. We've got a few other spots in the floating continent where I didn't grab some things the first time we were there. Probably not really a mistake I'll make again when we finally make it to the 3D remake of this game. But I suppose we'll see. Annoying when someone walks right in front of the door you want to walk through around here. Thankfully, that doesn't happen too often, and when it does, if you're stubbornly trying to keep on walking in that direction, the game will let you, forcing the NPC blocking you out of the way. Still, I can't help feeling that it would have been better if the game just plain didn't let the various people wander into spots that could explicitly block you off if they aren't meant to be an outright barrier to the player at that part of the story. It's a minor thing, sure, but it gave me something to talk about for a bit, as I'm just running around the world grabbing stuff that I probably should have grabbed hours ago. Okay, somehow missed getting those 3 chests down there. Again, not too much of an issue. I doubt any of those items would have been absolutely critical for us. Still, the game's limited storytelling hasn't really given us an explicit objective at this point. One of the crystals has been destroyed after all, and our heroes have no idea how to really react to that. Does that mean that Goldor doomed the world out of pure spite? Was he part of some organized effort to end the world? Or was he just a narcissistic prick that he just felt that a world where he isn't the most important person doesn't deserve to exist? Again, this game doesn't have any plot or storytelling outside of maybe some short, barely connected moments as we wander all over the place. And while I can certainly appreciate that more than any of the sort of overly dramatic till it started falling flat on itself sort of stuff from Final Fantasy IV, where from the mid-game to the end, it just didn't feel as good as the beginning. Yeah, this game certainly has its appeals. I can't help finding it funny that Final Fantasy III feels in some ways like it is approximately as uncomplicated as the vast majority of mainline Pokemon games at its core. Sure, Pokemon occasionally delves into more complicated subjects, but Anyway, it certainly took me more than long enough to find that Granomite hidden in the grass in that village. Again, probably not something we absolutely need, and probably not something that will be especially helpful to us as we keep pushing forward. Still, no harm in grabbing it, and it's not like we're in any particular hurry to get wherever the next major location is. We don't even know where that is. Just like there's no harm in us heading back to the opening area of the game, since we don't have any clear objectives at this point, so I'm actually really surprised I never really bothered to come back to this specific dungeon earlier, considering it seems like such an obvious place to check. And honestly, it's interesting to see the fact that the Blood Sword, one of our most effective weapons so far in the game, can come back to bite us hard when we're in a place that we were plausibly supposed to be able to handle when we were at our weakest. Sure. We're still hilariously overpowered for this rather short dungeon. I would have to be absolutely stupid in order for Carmine to be knocked out here. It's just something I've never really seen before, where being well-equipped for what comes next makes you horrendously poorly equipped to deal with what came earlier on. And I can't help wondering if there are any other games that pull something like that. One thing I don't think I'll ever understand is how the same person using the same weapon can drastically have different damage numbers against the exact same kind of enemy. Sure, I know there's some measure of unseen dice rolling going on, still, when I see Carmine hit over 200 in one strike, and then hit around 150 for the next, it just feels odd. It's not like this game does anything to make it obvious if someone landed a critical hit or something. As a side note, it really doesn't feel like the game was balanced with the idea of someone holding a shield instead of two weapons. It definitely makes me want to go to Final Fantasy V as soon as we're done with this one, just to see if the game does more to make certain bits of equipment feel worth having, and if they want to encourage us to be glass cannons, juggernauts, or something in between, because this game really feels like, for the most part, it wants the player to have a team full of glass cannons. Okay, nothing left in this town worth grabbing, though I can't help finding it funny that the inns in the first two towns are absolutely free for the entire game. Is that part of the reason why the game seems to like removing our ability to go back to previous areas when we make a certain amount of progress? Because if so, that feels like an objectively terrible way to go about it. And while the way that Final Fantasy IV kept changing the party with no warning whatsoever was a pain in the ass, it somehow felt more justified than us having an airship get destroyed, than the replacement oddly being chained to a landmass that didn't exist when we parked the damn thing in the first place. What's next? Is some especially massive monster going to show up and eat our airship while we're inside of it? And we'll have to find a way to get out of said monster before we're allowed to fly around the world some more? It certainly wouldn't feel out of place considering everything else that's happened. Pretty sure we've done enough for one clip. Time to save, take a bit of a break, and then try to figure out what the hell we're supposed to do next.